Lebohang, it's great catching up with you about our exhibition at the Biennale in Venice that will be opening very soon. Congratulations on your selection as one of the artists who will be representing South Africa. What are your thoughts on the selection and what's changed for you since the announcement?
I'm excited to be showing alongside Phumlani Ntuli and Roger Ballon. So a lot has changed since the announcement. I'm not sure if it's as a result of the announcement or if it's just the moment. But a lot has definitely changed. Also, I think for me to also be in a position where I'm reflecting back on the work that we're showing has been good for me in this very particular moment, and for the pavilion, and also in relation to the overall theme.
So South Africa's theme is Into the Light. How do you feel like your work relates to that theme and also the overall theme of the Biennale, which is the Milk of Dreams?
So the concept of Into the Light for me is an interesting one. First of all, because light is sort of at the center of my work, and I'm always working with this idea of like shadow play and light. And in this work, Black to Fairy Tales is a work that one of my earliest bodies of work where I'm like this sort of shadow character, playing all of these fairy tale characters, or reimagining fairy tale characters that I loved as a child, and that fits really well with this idea of or the theme Milk of Dreams, which is around this imaginary world, and so I recreate these fairy tales as I imagine them now as an adult, and the sort of characters that I loved as a child that I now get to sort of play out as an adult, the characters that I was never allowed to play during the school plays.
So the South African Pavilion has used the pandemic as a kind of springboard as a point of departure for coming into the light. What in the past 2 years has shifted in your artistic practice and the content of your work in relation to the pandemic?
So a lot shifted for me. I think that the pandemic, for me, like everyone else, provided a space for reflection. So I got to reflect on my practice and on the themes that have been important in my practice or at the center of my practice. Looking more closely at what I mean by memory and fantasy, and these relationships that my work have to memory, but also how memory or how fantasy is at the center of memory. So I got to look at the older bodies of work, but also to create new bodies of work, and to think about these themes more closely, but to also think about how my work has shifted significantly from my oral narrative or my family narrative and oral histories, but also how now it's looking more closely at theater. And performance. I mean, performance has always been at the center of the work, but it's just shifted significantly from the works that I'm known for, which are centered on my family narrative.
And representing South Africa at the Venice Biennale is a huge accomplishment. What is your response to that, or how do you feel like it has affected your presence as an artist, and what do you think that it will do for your career going forward?
I mean, that's an interesting question, in the sense that I think no one really knows what a moment this big, how that shifts things for them. But I definitely recognize that it allows for people who've never seen my work or engaged with my practice. It allows for them to engage with it. And the platform, because of the scale of the people also that come there, I imagine will bring about a shift. As to what that looks like, I'm not really sure. But it's also coming in a beautiful moment, as I'm departing from like the family narrative. And this idea of also going back to an earlier body of work, which was centered fully around the imaginary, and literature.
And what do you hope people will take away from the exhibition?
I'm hoping that people sort of discover this this change in the image around South African photography, that it becomes a point for people to recognize how, you know, this idea of photography has shifted significantly, I think, on the continent, but also in South Africa specifically, and how artists or photographers are thinking around the medium in such different ways. So that's what I hope for. I hope that people come in and they experience a moment for them to enter into a world for the imaginary, and they sort of go on these different journeys as they enter the different works.
And the Biennale is just one big project that you've got coming up. What else do you have coming up after the Biennale or during that you're very excited about? What can we look out for?
So one of the works that I'm working on currently is for an award that I got, the Grand Images Veve Prize. And what I'll be working on specifically for that is this life-size pop-up book, which will be mechanized, and you know, and that to a large degree speaks about where my thinking is at this point around photography and theater, and how these two mediums are or can be in conversation with each other. So I'm creating this pop-up book that's life-size, that's meant to almost become like a theater stage, with theater lightings and, you know, and shadows from, you know, these elements as they pop up, and, you know, and the pages flipping, and it's meant to be very theatrical. So I'm excited about the new bodies of work as well, but also how they link to themes that I've been working on over the last sort of 10 years. And that's definitely one of the exciting ones. And my solo show that's coming up at the Foam Museum in the Netherlands early next year is also, I think, it's a great moment, you know, and I think it's a great moment to also follow up from my participation at the Venice Biennale.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be working with you on this project, and thank you so much for the time to catch up today prior to us going to Venice. So thank you for the opportunity also to work with you, and it was lovely to chat to you.
Same, Amé.